So hello everyone, good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Stefan Bauer. I'm product manager at CXperts, and today I will give you an overview about data reporting and editing with Universal Reporter for Smart 3D model data for the next 20 to 30 minutes. So if you have questions, please write them into the panel and into the chat window, and I will try to answer them at the end of my presentation, or at least within an email in the next days. Yeah, looking first a little bit at a general overview. So here you can see that the Universal Reporter has several modules. On the one side, we have the so-called adapters for PNID and Smart 3D. So the adapters extract and report the data from the authoring tools, and we also have the capability to write back with the edit adapter data from the Universal Reporter into the authoring tool. The big advantage of this Universal Reporter solution is that regardless where the data come from, PNID or Smart 3D, or you also see these customs and Excel adapters, the way of reporting the data is always the same regardless where they come from. And at the end of the day, so everyone wants to have Excel reports, there is a strong capability to report this into Excel. Looking into some specific data for Smart 3D. So the first tool you need to know or you work with is the report adapter for Smart 3D and the attribute extraction. Here we need to know that a data snapshot is created based on a selected filter from Smart 3D. What is a data snapshot? So a filter from Smart 3D is taken, and the content of this filter for attributes and their values are reported, are extracted into external database. In our case, it's an Access MDB file. So this means that the content of this snapshot, or this snapshot is represents the content of the filter. So, and this data snapshot has several advantages. So first of all, this is a typical activity for overnight extractions. That means you can report or extract the data or large amount of data, especially for very big projects, in overnight, and even the report generation can be automated. So both the data extractions and the report generation can be fully automated. So you come in the morning into the office and everything is ready, and the users can make use of their reports. Here, definitely what is very important and very interesting is the attribute configuration. So first of all, when you look on the left side, you see how the data are organized in the 3D report adapter for Smart 3D. You see we have tables per task. So that means for piping, for equipment, structure, supports, but you also have to-do list interferences, drawing and reports. And yes, this is another very big advantage, that all the data are normalized to one flat table per task. So you have everything. For piping, for example, you don't have these hundreds of tables anymore where the data are stored in the database. Everything goes into one flat table. And this is the reason why finally creating reports or assembling reports is so easy because anything is in one flat table. Okay, so that's how the data are organized. Here on the right side, you see, so the tool comes with a preset of attributes, predefined attributes. So for piping, we have a set of attributes that come with the tool. But suppose you have custom attributes, you want to have additional attributes, you want to have different attributes. We have here a level or a functionality where you can organize this quite easily. So there is no deep knowledge of a database and the structure necessary. You just need to keep in mind that everything is reported on a part level. Then you go to your piping parts, for example. You have in this utility a direct view into your catalog and a model. You just drag and drop your attribute from the left side that represents all available attributes to the right side that is your actual report configuration, and that's it. Okay, so you do it here interactively in a quite easy way, and you can define the attributes what you want to use finally in your reports. Another very important topic are units and coordinate systems. Here on the left side, you see more or less, I think this is quite easy to understand. So this is more or less the same like in S3D. You have a unit type like distance, and you define what is the unit to be used, millimeters, inch, meters, and so on. You define it. You also define a decimal precision, and that's it. On the left side, so if you have attributes that have coordinates like center of gravity, like connect points, and so on, by default, the system reports the global coordinates, but you also have here the possibility to switch to any user-defined coordinate systems, and then the coordinates are reported in this system, also sometimes quite useful. There are some additional settings here. We have a functionality that is called objects in filter. So this is a quite useful option function. For example, it's a relationship between OID and a filter. So there is no default possibility to report this, but especially for volume filters, this is very useful. Here you can find out where a OID is used in what filter. So it's a one-to-many relation. One OID can be in many filters, and this is a possibility to report this as well. Here on the right side, you see a report on the spec data. By default, the tool reports on the model data that are modeled, but there is also one section where you can extract the data from your piping catalog with all the default attributes, and you can report on your piping spec catalog. Then when we come to the Universal Reporter itself, the functionality of creating the reports, assembling the templates, and formatting the reports, you see. So this is probably you have seen this already in the last webinar of Christine, where she showed all these functionalities in here. The only thing I want to point out here, what is the difference for the 3D data? Here on the left side, you see the table piping. It also can be equipment, HVAC, and so on. Here you have your attributes that can be activated, and the activated attributes come into the data grid. And here in the data grid, you can sort, filter like in Excel, and finally export everything to Excel from here. Okay, we see that anyway in the live demonstration. And last but not least, so this is a very the very interesting functionality. You can edit or modify data and write them back to Smart 3D. Okay, so here in general we have two different modes: a so-called interactive mode, where you change your data directly in the data grid in the Universal Reporter, or this looks a little bit complicated maybe, but we see that you change your data in an Excel report. So this is a typical scenario. So you give it in a department that is responsible for the data. They change the data. You import that back to through Universal Reporter and write this data back into the authoring tool into Smart 3D. Okay, so two different ways of modifying the data in here. So now I would change into an environment where the tools are installed. Here already I have opened the 3D report adapter. This is the first part to extract the data. And here I want to show you something what is specific in here. So first of all, this is the tool where you select your plant from here. So this is the same like modified database schema. So it connects to the site database of Smart 3D and reads out the plants from your site database. Then you define a permission group from Smart 3D. Then you define a filter, and here you see it's a direct connection already to the Smart 3D database. So no configuration here. You take your filter you have defined in Smart 3D, and this is the basis for the database, for the extracted snapshot database. And finally, you just need to define a place where the extracted data go to. And that's it. You press OK. And as I mentioned already, so there is also a level where you can define, there is a command line functionality with all the necessary commands. You put it in a batch file, run this batch file overnight, for example, in a task from a task scheduler, and can report this. Okay, so this is the usage, straightforward. I think very easy to understand. When we look at the attributes, so just what I have shown you in my slides to show you this in how it works in reality. So we have here the piping table, and in the piping table we have all the different predefined object type, like gasket, clamps, the parts itself, components, implied items, everything what you have in piping. Okay, and underneath you have your single predefined attributes, like a commodity class or something like that. This is a catalog instrument. Okay, you know all this, and let's assume you want to add additional attribute. So here on the left side, you just have to go to piping parts, and here the face-to-face diameter for the single elements, you just drag it from left to right. You can rename it if you want that. And you see here, okay, so this is the way to the attribute. This is the interface, and even here you would be able to change with the properties if you want to report this in millimeter by default, or you want to have a separate unit here in that way. Okay, so these are the direct attributes. But what is also a very big advantage here is sometimes direct attributes are not good enough or not enough. Okay, so there is very often the situation where you also need labels, and here you have access to your labels from the catalog. And let's assume, okay, so these are the piping labels in that case, what we know from our Smart 3D catalog. Or let's assume you want to know something about the spool names. Here, a label from your catalog can be used also as an attribute. Okay, and these labels, this can be a COM label, this can be SQL, SQL label, or a VB label, doesn't matter. And from here, you just define this label as an attribute and comes to the database. So that's very strong capability in here, and should accommodate all your needs in respect what you want to report. Okay, so by pressing OK, so then this is part of the next extraction, and then these attributes additionally defined or additionally configured attributes are part of the next extraction. Okay, units I mentioned already, so this is straightforward. So here you define a distance, okay, in meter, millimeter, and so on. That's easy to understand. So when we look at some additional options in here, as I mentioned, check objects and filter. So for example, when you select many filters, the system or this adapter gives you then, when you include this into reporting, this is a separate table again, then it gives you a table where one OID has many entries or can have many entries in regards to the specific filter. Okay, and for the piping catalog, here is the same. So you select all your pipe specs or single pipe specs, then this the data are extracted into a separate table in the MDB file. Okay, so that's the report adapter, very the important tool to extract the data from Smart 3D. And once when this work is done, okay, the tool is closed, you open the Universal Reporter. Then you connect to your database, what you have extracted, and you see, okay, I open a project, so I have, this is my MDB file, and here you see the different tables in the first panel. We have 3 panels. The first panel is the table panel. We have here piping, and in the second panel, these are the specific attributes. We have, you see, for example, if you want to have a to-do list, or the to-do list entries for the supports, everything, structure, piping. Okay, so this is table. These are the attributes, and what I would like to show you, how easy it is to assemble a report. So so for example, you want to know something about the area system, you activate the area system. You want to know something about unit system, and you see how this is grows. It's the next, for example, it's a pipeline system, or you want to know about something about NPD1, NPD2, and let's say short material description, a spec name, and industry commodity code, and so on. And you see how this is working, because okay, so this is just a few on the database. Okay, what is I think very interesting and very helpful are the quantities. So when I activate the quantity, and I already activate the sum of the quantity. And when we concentrate maybe on just on one pipeline, you see how that is working. And when I activate my quantity unit type, you see we have pieces and lengths. So the pipe by default is reported in a length, okay, and anything else is reported in pieces. And by using the sum of quantity, it is already summarized. So here you see, okay, I have 245 inch of 10-inch pipe. We have so many flanges, we have so many bolts and gaskets, and here for bolts, for example, for the stud bolts, this is on NPD1, this is the diameter, on NPD2, this is the length, and okay. So it's already in between a short period of time. You can create a report or configure a report quite easily from here, from scratch. Okay. Once when you have done this, you save this report, or you save this report configuration, okay, and put it maybe in a central location, and everybody can use it. So like that here. So for example, I have here already completely configured piping material takeoff with all my necessary attributes from area system to spec name, everything I need to know about this. And so now I can directly press on a button, create a report, and from here the content of the grid is exported to Excel. Quite quick, quite easy. We show the report, and that's it. Okay, quite straightforward. That's it. And this can be combined with a template. Template is something that, okay, you can have a logo, you can have nice colors, you have some things about a date, plant, username, and so on. And by activating just this template here, you see now everything is reported into the template, and it looks like a nice report should look like. Okay, with all the information. And last but not least, everything can be batched. So you just define your template, you define your batch output file. This batch output file you can put in a task scheduler, and this runs automatically overnight once when your data are extracted. So it's a possibility for a full automation. What I would like to show you now is the very important thing is something about write back of data. And for that, I would take a quite simple or obvious example. For example, I want to change design pressure and temperatures. Okay, so here this is a view. It reports the pipeline, the pipe run, and the specific temperatures and pressures. Okay, the first thing what I can do is, okay, if I want to change my design maximum pressure to 60, I can do that directly in the data grid, and I have several options: only for the single line, only for the filtered values, or everything that applies to that original thing. I would go for this option. You see how this is working. So here in gray, this is the old value. In blue, that's the new value. And from here, I can write back my changes to Smart 3D. Okay, that's interactively and goes directly into the model. I also have the possibility to reset the table, because here I would like to show you the different thing here to change data from a report. I create a report in here, and here this is a very very typical scenario. So you have a report. Okay, you give this report to uh, uh, a separate department, and this department is maybe responsible for changing the data. And what I have done here is I have created, this is my old value, and this is my design pressure new value. Okay, so I just copied this over, and so I can see my old value, my new value, but my other values, I also can change this here directly without having a separate column, just to demonstrate here how this is working. Okay, so now I have changed this completely. I saved this, and with tools and import from Excel, I can import these changed values or these changed values. So this is automatically recognized to be imported as piping. I can go on next, and you see here I have here some key columns. I have here some columns to update and columns to ignore. Okay, and I see a red value, and this is my new value, and this needs to be mapped. Okay, and this value is okay, the maximum temperature, and this is where the value should go to. So I have here a new value in my table, but I can map it to an existing value. And here, okay, I do the rest of my work. My key columns are the pipeline system and the pipe runs. I want to update these things here, and maybe I'm not interested in the spec name, and I start the import. And okay, so it goes to my table here. Old values, new values. I write back these changes to Smart 3D. In my case, I have a 64-bit because my office is 64-bit here. I need to change to Universal Reporter in 32-bit mode. It automatically starts in a 32-bit mode because the API is still 32-bit. And this now I'm able to, it's started in 32-bit, and I write back my changes to my piping table. And you see now the tool connects to Smart 3D, uses the active permission group, and here this is the part of the model where I have changed the data. You see now the writing is done for my data. Okay, and this can also be checked here directly in the log file. When it has been updated. When I double click this, here you see in the log what has happened in what way. Okay, here you also would see if something is not working, is not allowed, and whatnot. And here in the data, here in my model, I have my updated things, and for the pipe runs, so I would now see the new value, for example. I think if I remember correctly, it is 60 bar, for example, for design maximum pressure. So this is filled with the new values. Okay, we are almost at the end of our time already, but I think you could get an idea what is possible with the write back in here. And this was a very typical scenario what I have shown you here to do this here.